Hey, John, what's going on, man? Seeing you're on the road?
Yes, I am, sir.
There you go. There you go.
Hanging
It's
out.
amazing. It's amazing to me, as we're about ready to start this new episode. I read a study somewhere that more people now are preferring Dr. Pepper to Dr. Fauci. Isn't that amazing?
I absolutely agree. I love Dr.
I
Pepper.
mean, Dr. Pepper is pretty cool. I mean, it goes
It
down,
is pretty good. Yeah.
yeah, it goes down too sweet. Welcome, everyone, once again to another episode of Two Noobs Talking, of course, with my buddy John Tracy on the road in Texas. I'm Matt Craig, lock, stock, and barrel here in Pennsylvania. Happy you're with us. It's episode 34. John, we got some numbers, man. 34.
34. That's heavy. So
That's heavy.
Let's start with hockey. Let's go with the Beezer, John
Oh.
Van Beesbrook,
You
one
know,
of
with
the many Flyer goaltenders
Yikes. One of the
in
rotation.
our lifetime.
The rotation of Flyers goalies. John Van Beesbrook was definitely in that for, I think, a couple of seasons for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
I'd like to think, I know Herschel played for the Eagles back in
And
the
I
day.
believe
I
you. I
think
believe
he
you are
wore
right.
34
Yeah, I
back.
believe you are right.
Yeah.
Herschel, great, great. Hopefully, he's going to be a politician in Georgia.
I would love to see that. Would love to see that. But then, of course, Doc, right? I mean, Doc Holliday,
Can't. Yeah, you can't go any further than Roy Halladay.
just one of the greatest ever. And yeah, sorely
Greatest,
missed.
greatest Phillies pitcher other than Steve Carlton. But longevity and time are two different things.
Yep.
Steve was here when they weren't good.
Mm-hmm.
Roy made them good. That's
Yeah.
the difference, I believe, in Roy
Roy
Halladay.
really took that. I mean, you think about that. The '08 team was terrific. So much
Mhm.
beloved. '09 they win the NLCS again.
Mhm.
The addition of him in that starting rotation, it was like, oh
Just
my
made
gosh,
baseball fun
every
again.
focus was on the Phillies at that point. It was great.
Just a point to that, when Cliff Lee came to this team, who is a great pitcher in his own right,
Mm,
to be a guy that comes into a locker room
yeah.
and elevates from Cliff Lee, that
Yeah.
shows you what
Yeah.
kind of level he was.
That is just unbelievable.
He's the
Yeah.
Jordan level of pitchers.
Yeah.
Like, he's there.
Yeah, you're not finding many Hallidays anyway to begin with in Major League Baseball now. He would
Kershaw,
throw
maybe.
100. I know he
Yeah.
would throw 150.
Yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
Kershaw is the only one I can think. I mean, there's a couple others. Scherzer's pretty close, but I mean, yeah, you're just throwing darts at the board because you don't know, because the guy's going to come out of nowhere.
Yeah, and they're going to only
And,
last like five,
yeah,
6 innings,
there's
and they're
no-
done.
there's
It's like,
no-
give me a break.
There's no Halladay.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, crappy Toronto team to halfway decent Phillies team. Great,
Yeah.
all just a great career.
Great career. Well, that being said, John, we got a great episode, do we not? I mean, once again, we
We
just
do.
continue to just rise to the occasion with these episodes of Two
We're
Noobs Talking.
trying.
And I think this one, of course, we're going back and forth, right? This one is one of, hopefully, going to be one of our better ones for sure. Let's just dive right in, shall we? I believe there's a dock in the city of Washington that I think is starting to sweat a ton of bullets, and it's not because it's hot and humid now. It's because he's a quack, and he's finally being called out on it. So,
But just so you know, he's being casted for a movie.
oh really? Faucicino. I wonder if Disney is ever going to do something along those lines, Johnny. That's
I
awesome.
hope so.
Look at that.
I hope so. I love how they put the what he said first here.
Masks don't
He
work.
said-
Wear multiple masks. Virus not from Wuhan. It could be coming from the Wuhan lab. Love it. Absolute love it.
Let's jump right into this Breitbart article that we found.
It's just unbelievable. Anthony Fauci email about China covering up coronavirus death rate was too long to read. Too long to read, John.
Yeah, I read it last night.
I
It
mean,
was long,
it was, yeah. But I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
but I read it.
Yeah. This email was sent by Eric Nielsen, who is a co-founder and is currently serving as the interim chief executive officer at Biosignal Technologies. So he is in, the pulse of this coronavirus. safe to say, right? I
And
mean, he's
and from the emails, not even be safe to say from the emails, he had worked with China
yeah,
for so long. He was on the pulse of what China was doing,
yeah,
and he was trying to give advice to Fauci
yes,
about these things. And let's know further. You can read it for yourself. Every single one of his emails will be in the show notes.
yeah.
All
Oh,
3,200 and I think there were 3,240. I don't know. I read a ton of them, but I hate him even more now.
my gosh, John. I mean,
Yeah.
that's unbelievable that there were over. Thank God for the Freedom of Information Act,
Yes.
obviously. But yeah, this is a screenshot of the entire 7-page email that
So
Eric was sending.
let's start here real quick because this is really important, Matt. Just kind of read through it.
Yeah, from I'm a physicist. I've been modeling.
Yes, please.
Okay, so this is right from Eric's email. I'm a quote. I'm a physicist. I've been modeling this outbreak since January. My panic started minutes after I've learned around 500 million people left Wuhan around January 22nd, a few days before the CCP, that's the Chinese Communist Party, started locking the country down. The 5 million people scattered to 13,000 cities in China to visit family and friends for the Lunar Festival or the Chinese New Year. I've been communicating with quite a few people around the world, including New York University epidemiologist, and that name's blanked out. We've both been warning our families to mostly deaf ears at first since January of 2020. It's been frustrating and exhausting, but finally, most are as prepared as possible for what's about to happen. This is stunning, John.
That's January. So he already knew if
Something
he
was
would have read
happening.
the email.
Yeah,
Because
something
that's
was
what
happening.
that is what he's getting away with here in this email.
Yep.
And I understand where the liberal concept or people that are pro Fauci are going to say, well, he didn't read the email, so how does he know?
Yeah. So
But a stupid person is a person that doesn't read the information that they are given.
bingo. So continuing on here, I have lots of information about China due to my business, scientific, and friendship, and other ties with many there, including immunologists and virologists at top-tier institutions and laboratories. My WeChat account, like Skype or WhatsApp, was blocked by the CCP for 3 days in late February, early March. But after a warning message, it is now unblocked. I'm willing to share with you everything I know, think I know, or seriously suspect. Here are a few examples. He goes on, of course.
Yes.
Um,
I think this one, if Fauci would have perused the email, which I would expect someone to do, peruse it, or at least you're the director
Skim over
of
it,
the
whatever.
NIH, send it to anybody.
Yep.
Send it to, like, Matt, you're in control of said company, right? And I'm your lackey, right? I work with you hand in hand. You know what I mean? I get paid a good salary to follow you around and know what you know. If you don't got time,
Just give me the bullet points.
I do it all the time. I'm a foreman.
Yep.
When I don't want to deal with something, I give it to the dude I work with because he works for me. He deciphers it and then gives me his opinion. I trust his opinion, then I move forward with it. That's what leaders do. Fauci's not a leader.
No, he's not. He's an administrative bureaucrat. That's exactly what he is. He's a representative of the administrative state in Washington, D.C., and he doesn't fully understand.
No.
Give me the bullet points. His response to all this is too long for me to read.
This right here is a bullet point that he probably should have had someone read to him.
Bingo. And I'm just going to read this right from verbatim. Quote, I'm confident that China stopped counting dead COVID-19 infected bodies since around January 7th, 2020. They've been adding fabricated data daily to show or save face to the world and their own people an impressive flattening of China's outbreak curve. It's easy to prove this via data analysis because, for example, improbable coincidences occurred in much of the data. My suspicions were eventually confirmed by at least 2 of my sources in China. And again, he lists them out for their protection. They've been blocked out. An email. Continue on his email. The data posted by China is not only garbage, which I long suspected too, John. I don't know about you.
I agree.
It has misled the world into a false sense of security, death rate, age versus death, and other things. That is, If people analyze the world's data, including China, the results are heavily biased towards nonsense because China's number of cases accounted for the majority of cases worldwide. I want to emphasize that I did not believe China intentionally did this to harm the world. I sincerely believe it was done for saving face reasons. Saving face is possibly the most powerful motivating force in China. You don't write that sentence, that last sentence, without knowing that culture, John.
Yeah, exactly. You're talking about someone that understands exactly what is going on the ground. He understands that even just I communist China, doesn't mean anything to me. I'll say it. He also knows not saying that is probably going to get him knifed right in the throat. Because they don't play like that.
No.
China don't let that. If anybody taught you anything about China, and kiss my ass if you don't understand this, Trump taught you everything you needed to know about China because Trump's an asshole. And he was able to deal with them because they're assholes. It's the same thing with North Korea. Dude's a jerk. Trump's a jerk. They get along. Jerks and assholes get along because they're full of themselves.
Well, and here's the thing, and I want to make this very clear because I know in my workplace, I also work with a woman that is of Chinese descent. That's not racist. That's just facts.
It's what she is.
Whenever there is something that goes wrong that she does, she has a tendency to shut down. They do not readily admit a mistake. Now, that could be normal. That doesn't necessarily mean that please don't misunderstand. I'm not saying that all Chinese people do that.
No, I do that.
Bingo. Right. That's the tendency. The tendency is to say, oh my God, I'm in trouble. What's going to happen? You can never assume the worst. It's always important and encouraging to say to someone, look, if something's wrong, say something. Tell me about it. Don't just say, or don't say anything. Don't keep it to yourself.
But that's the reverse, actually, what Fauci did.
Yeah.
Is he didn't read the email because it was too long.
And it was too long to read.
Down the chain. Yeah. Which I'm okay with. If it's you're the director of the NIH, like taking all the bullshit out of the way. You're the director of the NIH. You are too busy to read everybody's email.
Give me the bullet points.
But if an email comes in, especially with a pandemic coming on, and you're gonna want to dig deeper.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not going to blame him for every little thing. I'm going to blame him for his media stuff and how he reacted to things. I'm not going to necessarily sit here and just grill him because I think he's a terrible human being, but there's too many things.
Yes.
With him.
I think if anything, he's overexposed himself in the media.
And I will get right to that next screenshot.
Beautiful.
Because this is showing it 100%.
Yeah.
This is a Newsweek article.
Critics call to fire Dr. Fauci after emails show him saying masks don't work against COVID. So again, we go back to your political cartoon, John. Which is it? Is it you wear the mask or you not wear the mask?
This is what I'm talking about. He was unprepared for this, and he still acts like he was always prepared for this. And that's the problem. That's the corruption in the whole thing. And just so we know, like President Biden made him the medical advisor.
Yeah.
So now he's even more in charge of stuff than he ever was.
Yeah. And he says that you need to wear multiple masks even after you get vaccinated. Well, I think that theory was pretty much shot to hell. I mean, that pretty much is done.
I mean,
because again, he's a quack, but
wearing the masks was shot to hell by him.
Yes.
He said wearing a mask in the email. I'm not quoting him. I'm just saying, I'm going to paraphrase what he said. Basically, if someone walked up and coughed in your face or hocked a loogie in your face that had coronavirus, you'd have a less likely chance of contracting coronavirus, whether they did that on your bare face. But the mask is ineffective for the small droplets. That's literally what he said in the email. Not literally. I'm sorry. That's paraphrasing what he said in the email.
What he said.
It was a gross change in what he said later on, moving on to other things that we will talk about soon.
Exactly. But that's huge. That's massive. Like, and again, I think it goes back to what his thought process was. Okay, well, mass, and his initial thought process is correct. We've seen that in the Swiss policy research, John, with our own research. We could point to studies where wearing a surgical or any sort of other mask doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be protected from the coronavirus. It just doesn't protect you.
You're starting to understand that with Florida and Texas and many other states where the masks are coming off.
Yeah.
The cities and the states and the cities are opening up, and the virus is disappearing.
It's dying. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's also because it is a variant of the flu. It is a variant of the coronavirus, because COVID-19 is different than the coronavirus. Just so we're clear, coronavirus is the coronavirus is what the flu is, and then COVID-19 is
separate, but of a similar family.
Is a separate version of it. It's a what do they call it? A strain?
A strain, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's a strain of coronavirus. So let's get that. I know we go back and forth. We don't say proper terms all the time, but yeah, but what happens, they're very similar. They're not the same, but they're very similar. What happens in the summertime with flu-like SARS,
symptoms,
bird flu.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other what would N1,
swine
H1.
flu.
There's a ton of them. Right?
H1N1.
What happens
MERS,
in the summertime with them?
Yeah. They pretty much like disappeared. Yeah.
Go away.
Yep. And again, it goes back to what we talk about all the time in this podcast, John. It's all about eating right, exercising right, making sure that your immune system is built up, right? I mean, that's really what it's all about. And I think it goes really, and this kind of leads into our next topic.
Yeah. Less fear is what I'm going to leave you with.
Less fear. But let's throw this up, because this really pissed me off this week, because this kind of utter nonsense by CNN is why I don't watch this news broadcast or watch that news network, nor do I watch Fox, because I think they also do the exact same thing with fear porn.
Yeah.
And this is an example of fear porn right here.
Yeah.
100%. Masks, distancing, still important, even with vaccination study suggests. Now, that's a very key word. Suggests.
Suggest is because what they did 6 months ago was study shows.
Yeah.
So at least they're putting the study in, which you can link in the show notes.
In the show
you
notes.
Can read it. We both read it.
And it's horseshit because
this is a thing.
Well, this is the thing. The key sentence in this right here is an assistant professor of emergency medicine at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and colleagues used a mathematical model to simulate coronavirus spread among the approximately 10 million people of North Korea.
Okay.
Stop right there.
Matt, can I point something out too?
Go for it.
What I just said simulates coronavirus spread, not COVID-19, not what we're actually talking about.
Yep.
A mathematical model that is going to take all the flus into consideration of coronavirus, you're going to get different numbers. They're not just doing COVID-19 because they haven't modeled COVID-19 yet. We know this. We know the scientific community doesn't have a footprint on it.
This is the IMHE study of Washington State, once again, trying to instill a continuing level of fear in this country. This is an utterly irresponsible article by CNN. Utterly irresponsible.
I absolutely agree. Just go back to the quote that I have down here.
Yeah. Our study suggests that for populations of 10.5 million people, approximately 1.8 million infections, really? And 8,000 deaths, really, could be prevented during 11 months with more efficacious, or I don't even know how to pronounce that word, sorry. COVID-19 vaccines, higher vaccine. Yeah.
I don't even know how to pronounce it.
Efficacious.
My wife on the phone. Maybe she can do it.
Efficacious. That's it. Efficacious COVID-19 vaccines, higher vaccination coverage, and maintaining non-pharmaceutical interventions or NPIs such as distancing and use of face masks. John,
But
that's a
didn't we
bunch of
just
horse
like
shit. I'm sorry. That's a bunch of horse shit.
I'm gonna get rid of this because I'm gonna speak on this, and I don't have a medical degree, so you
Yeah.
know, go fuck yourself if you don't think I know anything. Didn't they just say
Yeah.
the CDC and other important places that you know that have been shoved down people's throats that don't believe this? Didn't they just say that the pharmaceuticals work?
Yeah. So which is it, right? Which is it?
Why all of a sudden is everybody Dr. Fauci? I don't understand this. Like, what?
Yeah.
There are pharmaceuticals. I know people that have had it. They've taken the pharmaceuticals. They are now not dead.
Yeah.
I mean, that's harsh, but
The argument that CNN article, and again, this goes back to the, from my original point of the media, that just feeds right into the fear porn. I don't care who you are. That just left, right, center.
Yeah,
that's utterly irresponsible. It's like this thing is defeated. This virus has been defeated. Period. Yeah. And that's what I saw an Inquirer article this morning saying, like, I've never seen people more happy, essentially, because they know this virus is dead. This virus is done for. It's like vaccines have worked. The therapeutic drugs are coming out, and it's like we've got CNN. Oh, it's a mathematical model. Oh my God. Get out of here with this bullshit.
It's like a mathematical model telling you that Eagles are going to win a Super Bowl. We all know that's not true. Like,
exactly.
They do this in what CNN is actually using. They're using bracketology.
Yeah.
They're using that.
What can we do
They're literally using that March Madness thing that Dick Vitale, by the way, go fuck yourself, Dick Vitale. You were never anything. What he used to do is he used to make it up.
Yeah.
Because then what he would do is Gonzaga went 15-1 against shitty competition. They'll beat North Carolina.
Yeah.
And then when they did that one time, look what I did.
Yeah.
Mel Kiper stuff. They're literally, they must have hacked ESPN.
Yeah.
And got all their trade secrets, how you can lie about sports. Because that's what they're doing in this article.
Yeah, and that mathematical, that's just so ridiculous. I'm
like
sorry to be so flippant about it, but it's like this kind of nonsense just really drives me crazy. It really does.
It's all over the media. Look at the NBA thing where what was it? Shaquille O'Neal literally said, everybody's seen it online. I don't even know the dude's name, and I don't even care what his name is because his opinion was such bullshit.
Yeah.
That you don't even need to know your name. He said that Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant couldn't fit in LeBron James' shoes. And Shaquille O'Neal literally was like, would you get mad if I just walked off? So what we're talking about is some skinny jeaned college sports writer is saying this. And the dude who played against both of those dudes is like, are you going to get mad?
Are you serious? Like
your argument sucks.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great analogy because it's like that right there is just
there's
nothing to say other than it's irresponsible. Journalism.
I do it to annoy people at times. I do it personally with the Kobe Jordan thing. I know how good
we've had that discussion too.
But you know this. I refuse to tell people how good Jordan was because I love Kobe so much.
Yeah, exactly.
But Matt has had this conversation with me. Mm-hmm. I'll balance,
and I'm a Jordan fan, and I've loved Jordan ever since. Yeah,
I'll balance it 100, and we can have it. But that's what media does.
Yeah,
is they stick to what I do with the Kobe thing. I know I've had arguments with my kids about that. Kobe's the best. I don't even want to hear it. Yeah, I didn't want to hear LeBron. I don't want to hear anybody. I don't even want to hear Allen Iverson, and I love that dude.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, exactly. You could even go JoJo. You can throw JoJo in there.
No, Kobe was better. Like that, but I do that as my personal opinion. Exactly. They're doing it as a career.
Bingo.
That's what
That's the difference. That's the difference.
That's why I hate the ESPN generation.
That's why I
stopped watching TV.
Exactly. That's why you have to really read these articles and think like, well, wait a minute. That's a mathematical model that's saying that could have the potential. Now, I get worst case scenario. I understand that.
Always there's a worst case scenario.
And there's always a worst case scenario, but for crying out loud, we're not living, we are not in that environment right now. We are not.
Can I give it one more and then we'll move on? I'll give
Go
one
for it.
more. Okay,
Go
there's
for
a
it.
mathematical equation right now that the power grid in either of these states can go out, right? And then we don't have a show. And then we have to re-record, and then we have to double edit, or we'll have to start over from scratch. There's a mathematical equation of you getting in a car and getting hit by a bus, or walking our street getting hit by the bus. There's a mathematical equation for everything that happens in this world. But there's no reason, although this podcast not finishing isn't the end of the world, getting hit by a bus is, but I'm just saying that you can't.
Yeah.
You can't deal with these fear mongers.
Yeah, exactly.
And live a proper life.
That's
like all I want to leave on.
Amen to that, brother.
You can't turn on the TV and live a proper life.
Absolutely.
Because they're lying all the time.
All the time. Yeah. And that right there is an example of what to avoid. We wanted to bring this out because of the because it was utter BS. But it's like it's something to avoid. It really
anything
is.
That pisses us off, we put on the podcast.
It's that right there. Yeah.
We air our grievances.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of airing of grievances, John, let's dive right into our Fab Five segment.
Oh, jeez. I'll read it. Dude, I'll handle it. You can calm your voice down.
This is hilarious. Go ahead. Go for it. Go for it.
The only reason I put this New York Post, the New York Post article is fabulous. They went after him. I put the headline in just because
the New York Post.
It's not that I want to be that drama-filled guy and put this out there. I just wanted to do it because New York Post never would do anything like this 5 years ago. And the fact that they just put the book deal in just to pull you in, just to tell you something else. Kudos to New York Post. Like, you've now become a 16-year-old girl. Good job. Great work. Or boy, actually, because they're probably more catty than the girls. I have a 16-year-old boy, so I would actually say that the boys are a little more catty.
There you go.
So taxpayers are being forced. Article, it will be in the show notes of the forced to sell out or shell out more than $900 an hour for Cuomo for his lead defense lawyer. There's an actual article for that. That's also in the show notes. If you want to follow this full, anything in red on the screen is going to be, I'm going to let Matt take it over to kind of explain the rest of it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. This guy, of course, wrote Governor Cuomo up there, the cockwobble. Your wonderful nickname for him, John. Love it. Despite a $5 million book deal, which turned out to be a piece of crap, Governor Cuomo making taxpayers foot $2.5 million legal defense tab. So again, to your point, he's hired a lawyer, shelling out $900 an hour. That's pretty cool. That makes me think, like, my gosh, what kind of work am I doing? $900 an hour. That's pretty cool.
Or you could be a governor, sexually assault people, and then make taxpayers pay for it.
Might as well, to help him try and fend off charges that he used staffers to help write a book detailing his handling of the pandemic. Now claims that he and aides hid from the public the true death toll among patients in nursing homes. The $2.5 million defense tab, revealed in the contract made public through a freedom of information request.
We're starting to love this.
Yeah. Was struck even though Cuomo sold the rights to his coronavirus memoir for $5.1 million.
Yep.
He also has about $17 million in his campaign war chest, John.
Yep. There are actually, there's more articles. Like I said, the red, this sold his rights to the
red
book.
links.
There's an article on that. These are all New York Post articles, just so you know. They go deep on him.
I mean, it's wonderful because then it's like, as you scroll down the article here, the three-term Democrat is also holding a $10,000 a head fundraiser later the month, John. How would you like to go for dinner for $10,000? I mean, it better be the best damn filet mignon I've ever had.
To be honest with you, if I had $10,000, which I don't, I would totally do it for like DeSantis or exactly. Abbott. I mean, kind of Abbott. Maybe Abbott would probably have to give me $5,000 because I hate you, but I kind of like what you're doing now. So Abbott has to be a $5,000 for Abbott, but $10,000 totally for DeSantis.
Yeah.
And what's the one in was it Idaho?
Oh, yeah.
Never shut down.
Yeah, they never did.
she could charge at least 15,000 if
Yeah.
Cuomo's charging 10,000.
Yeah, exactly. Cuomo though leads the entire nation, or I was going to say leads the league in entire salary and governors. Two
He
hundred
leads the
twenty-five
league in
thousand dollars.
nursing home deaths, is what he does.
Yes. He's also leading that too. Exactly. He defended his decision, John. It's very important. He defended his decision to stick hardworking and heavily taxed New Yorkers with his legal bills. His quote: the way it works is the executive chamber has retained the council, and that is a state expense.
Scumbag.
Scumbag.
Read it one more time because I want to cut this. I want to cut this clean for everybody. So you
Cuomo.
can understand.
So this is
He is charging New York for the legal field, the legal bills for his sexual assault cases.
Yeah, exactly.
For his sexual assault cases.
For his own personal. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're clear, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what did he say?
He said, quote, the way it works is the executive chamber has retained the council, and that is a state expense, end quote.
Fuck this.
Scumbag. Scumbag. Oh, my gosh. John, I mean, going back to what we did before with our first ever Stop the Tape segment with his brother. Yes. I mean, that whole family. Yeah. That's a crime family, man. Well, I don't know what's worse, either them or the Bidens. And it's 1 and 1A compared to one of the two. But it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
With that family.
I mean, we know. I mean, our elder statesmen and the people that brought us into life and politics could tell us that Mario Cuomo was a scumbag. Mm-hmm. We get it. God rest his soul. He's gone. We're not going to sit here and bury a man that is passed. You'll meet your maker. You'll figure it out. Like we're not trying to be judge and jury for everybody, but
exactly
100%. 100%. Like these two kids are corrupt as it comes.
Yeah, John. It's like, to me, I made mention a couple of weeks ago on this podcast. I pray for the guy's soul, and it's true. I still do because this guy, the way he's going living his life. Oh.
It's not okay.
It's not okay. It's not okay at all. You can't do this. I mean, it's like, how can you continue to do something like that? I mean, it's just terrible. Yeah.
It's tough.
But let's move on to
lighter news.
Yeah. Because I think, when we were talking about this, we were thinking like, okay, well, the happy and all that kind of stuff. This to me, though, today we're recording on June 6th, and June 6th may not mean a whole heck of a lot to a lot of people, but June 6th carries a special weight for those in the military and for those that are that love the country, that love the United States, that love Europe. 1944, World War II, the Allies invade Europe and essentially take the European coast away from the Nazis and liberate Europe, essentially. Turns the entire tide of the war, wins the war, essentially. And the lives that were lost. I mean, if you ever wanted to watch a great movie, Saving Private Ryan is one of them. And that gives you an idea of what it might have been like on Utah Beach, Omaha Beach, whatever the case may be, during this
day. A small depiction.
A small depiction, exactly. But I would say this too, John. Let's throw this up on the screenshot because this is so important. Because we don't have much time left with these wonderful people that gave their lives away and who survived still. It's a World War II generation.
We have touched on this before, in the early podcasts. This was one of this is the story of the one they were working on when we did the last podcast. Mm-hmm. He has now been buried or set to be buried in Kentucky. So this is working.
Big time. It's a USS Oklahoma sailor who was killed at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, has been identified, which is amazing. 66 years later, between June and November of 2015. Yeah. Personnel from the DPAA, which I'm not quite sure what that acronym means, but they exhumed the USS Oklahoma unknowns from the punch bowl. Dental and anthropological analysis was used by these scientists to identify this soldier's remains. And they were also able to use, this is unbelievable, mitochondrial DNA and Y chromosome DNA analysis. They were able to use that to identify this soldier, John. That's unbelievable. He was accounted for in 2019, and he's going to be buried in May. He was buried just this last couple weeks ago, actually, May 15th. And they found, it looks like another one have also been identified from the USS Oklahoma. And Banks, who was 20 at the time of his death, will be buried in Plano in October of 2020. So we have that link to the show notes.
That was the one. Yeah, that's the one we did. That's the one we did the article on before. But they are identifying these guys finally. The one thing I just want to just keep this up real quick is
we're classified. Yeah.
Yep. They were classified in 49 as unrecoverable. That's the levy I want to leave on this. Like, unrecoverable remains are now 66 years later using science. That they're going home. They're being buried.
Remarkable.
At home.
What a remarkable, like, think about that with science technology, John. To be able to identify them by DNA, mitochondrial DNA and Y chromosome DNA.
We're following this extremely closely. I have a couple people actually on it, family members, that are very, very, very into this. So anytime these articles come up, they get flagged immediately. They're from the original podcast. I forget what episode we did it on. But we talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
They're going to bring more people home. It's just a matter of finding the news articles in which they do. I'm sure we've missed a couple, but this one popped up on Fox News.
Loved it. Yeah. And
it's just he got buried. That's great.
What more can you possibly say?
One a year for the rest of my life makes me feel happy. I'm sure there should be more, but I think these scientists are working as hard as they possibly can.
Oh yeah, for sure. And to give closure also to those family members that, that survived that kind of thing. And, it's like they're able to continue on in their family lineage.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when. The whole point is to bring, and I'm sure your dad would say this. I know my cousin would say this. I know my father would say this. I know anybody that I know in the military would say this. The purpose is bringing everybody home.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is part of bringing everybody home. There should be no tomb of the undead soldier. There should be no unidentified anything. Everybody comes home.
Everyone does. Yeah. Yeah, and
absolutely. And I understand that there are times where it's not possible, but the effort should be 100% all the time. And this is exactly a show of that.
Massive.
It's 100%.
Massive. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, John. With it being also too on June 6th, I should say, Ronald Reagan, 40 years after the landing of D-Day, gave a tremendous speech. It's one of the greatest speeches ever given by any president in our country's history. And I'm going to play just an unbelievable speech here. And let's just dive right in, John, shall we?
We're here to mark that day in history when the Allied armies joined in battle to reclaim this continent to liberty. For 4 long years, much of Europe had been under a terrible shadow. Free nations had fallen. Jews cried out in the camps. Millions cried out for liberation. Europe was enslaved and the world prayed for its rescue. Here in Normandy, the rescue began. Here, the Allies stood and fought against tyranny in a giant undertaking unparalleled in human history. We stand on a lonely, windswept point on the northern shore of France. The air is soft, but 40 years ago at this moment, the air was dense with smoke and the cries of men and the air was filled with the crack of rifle fire and the roar of cannon. At dawn on the morning of the 6th of June, 1944, 225 Rangers jumped off the British landing craft and ran to the bottom of these cliffs. Their mission was one of the most difficult and daring of the invasion: to climb these sheer and desolate cliffs and take out the enemy guns. The Allies had been told that some of the mightiest of these guns were here, and they would be trained on the beaches to stop the Allied advance. The Rangers looked up and saw the enemy soldiers at the edge of the cliffs shooting down at them with machine guns and throwing grenades, and the American Rangers began to climb. They shot rope ladders over the face of these cliffs and began to pull themselves up. When one Ranger fell, another would take his place. When one rope was cut, a Ranger would grab another and begin his climb again. They climbed, shot back, and held their footing. Soon, one by one, the Rangers pulled themselves over the top, and in seizing the firm land at the top of these cliffs, they began to seize back the continent of Europe. 225 came here. After 2 days of fighting, only 90 could still bear arms. And behind me is a memorial that symbolizes the Ranger daggers that were thrust into the top of these cliffs. And before me are the men who put them there. These are the boys of Pointe de Hope. These are the men who took the cliffs. These are the champions who helped free a continent. And these are the heroes who helped end a war. Gentlemen, I look at you and I think of the words of Stephen Spender's poem. You are men who in your, quote, lives fought for life and left the vivid air signed with your honor. I think I know what you may be thinking right now, thinking we were just part of a bigger effort. Everyone was brave that day. Well, everyone was. Do you remember the story of Bill Millen of the 51st Highlanders? 40 years ago today, British troops were pinned down near a bridge, waiting desperately for help. Suddenly they heard the sound of bagpipes, and some thought they were dreaming. Well, they weren't. They looked up and saw Bill Millen with his bagpipes leading the reinforcements and ignoring the smack of the bullets into the ground around him. Lord Lovat was with him, Lord Lovat of Scotland, who calmly announced when he got to the bridge, "Sorry, I'm a few minutes late," as if he'd been delayed by a traffic jam, when in truth he'd just come from the bloody fighting on Sword Beach, which he and his men had just taken. There was the impossible valor of the Poles, who threw themselves between the enemy and the rest of Europe as the invasion took hold, and the unsurpassed courage of the Canadians, who had already seen the horrors of war on this coast. They knew what awaited them there, but they would not be deterred. And once they hit Juno Beach, they never looked back. All of these men were part of a roll call of honor, with names that spoke of a pride as bright as the colors they bore. The Royal Winnipeg Rifles, Poland's 24th Lancers, the Royal Scots Fusiliers, the Screaming Eagles, the Yeomen of England's armored divisions, the forces of Free France, the Coast Guard's Matchbox Fleet, and you, the American Rangers. 40 summers have passed since the battle that you fought here. You were young the day you took these cliffs. Some of you were hardly more than boys with the deepest joys of life before you. Yet you risked everything here. Why? Why did you do it? Well, what impelled you to put aside the instinct for self-preservation and risk your lives to take these cliffs? What inspired all the men of the armies that met here? We look at you and somehow we know the answer. It was faith and belief. It was loyalty and love. The men of Normandy had faith that what they were doing was right, faith that they fought for all humanity, faith that a just God would grant them mercy on this beachhead or on the next. It was the deep knowledge, and pray God we have not lost it, that there is a profound moral difference between the use of force for liberation and the use of force for conquest. You were here to liberate, not to conquer, and so you and those others did not doubt your cause, and you were right not to doubt. You all knew that some things are worth dying for. One's country is worth dying for, and democracy is worth dying for because it's the most deeply honorable form of government ever devised by man. All of you loved liberty. All of you were willing to fight tyranny, and you knew the people of your countries were behind you. The Americans who fought here that morning knew word of the invasion was spreading through the darkness back home. They fought or felt in their hearts, though they couldn't know in fact, that in Georgia they were filling the churches at 4 a.m. In Kansas, they were kneeling on their porches and praying. And in Philadelphia, they were ringing the Liberty Bell. Something else helped the men of D-Day: their rock-hard belief that Providence would have a great hand in the events that would unfold here, that God was an ally in this great cause. And so, the night before the invasion, when Colonel Wolverton asked his parachute troops to kneel with him in prayer, he told them, "Do not bow your heads, but look up so you can see God and ask his blessing in what we are about to do." Also that night, General Matthew Ridgway on his cot, listening in the darkness for the promise God made to Joshua, "I will not fail thee nor forsake thee." These are the things that impelled them. These are the things that shaped the unity of the Allies. When the war was over, there were lives to be rebuilt and governments to be returned to the people. There were nations to be reborn. Above all, there was a new peace to be assured. These were huge and daunting tasks, but the Allies summoned strength from the faith, belief, loyalty, and love of those who fell here. They rebuilt a new Europe together. There was first a great reconciliation among those who had been enemies, all of whom had suffered so greatly. The United States did its part, creating the Marshall Plan to help rebuild our allies and our former enemies. The Marshall Plan led to the Atlantic Alliance, a great alliance that serves to this day as our shield for freedom, for prosperity, and for peace. In spite of our great efforts and successes, not all that followed the end of the war was happy or planned. Some liberated countries were lost. The great sadness of this loss echoes down to our own time in the streets of Warsaw, Prague, and East Berlin. The Soviet troops that came to the center of this continent did not leave when peace came. They're still there, uninvited, unwanted, unyielding, almost 40 years after the war. Because of this, Allied forces still stand on this continent. Today, as 40 years ago, our armies are here for only one purpose: to protect and defend democracy. The only territories we hold are memorials like this one and graveyards where our heroes rest. We in America have learned bitter lessons from 2 world wars. It is better to be here ready to protect the peace than to take blind shelter across the sea, rushing to respond only after freedom is lost. We've learned that isolationism never was and never will be an acceptable response to tyrannical governments with an expansionist intent. But we try always to be prepared for peace, prepared to deter aggression, prepared to negotiate the reduction of arms, and yes, prepared to reach out again in the spirit of reconciliation. In truth, there is no reconciliation we would welcome more than a reconciliation with the Soviet Union, so together we can lessen the risks of war now and forever. It's fitting to remember here the great losses also suffered by the Russian people during World War II. 20 million perished, a terrible price that testifies to all the world the necessity of ending war. I tell you from my heart that we in the United States do not want war. We want to wipe from the face of the earth the terrible weapons that man now has in his hands. And I tell you, we're ready to seize that beachhead. We look for some sign from the Soviet Union that they are willing to move forward, that they share our desire and love for peace, and that they will give up the ways of conquest. There must be a changing there that will allow us to turn our hope into action. We will pray forever that someday that changing will come. But for now, particularly today, it is good and fitting to renew our commitment to each other, to our freedom, and to the alliance that protects it. We're bound today by what bound us 40 years ago, the same loyalties, traditions, and beliefs. We're bound by reality. The strength of America's allies is vital to the United States, and the American security guarantee is essential to the continued freedom of Europe's democracies. We were with you then, we're with you now. Your hopes are our hopes, and your destiny is our destiny. Here in this place, where the West held together, let us make a vow to our dead. Let us show them by our actions that we understand what they died for. Let our actions say to them the words for which Matthew Ridgway listened: I will not fail thee nor forsake thee. Strengthened by their courage, heartened by their value, and borne by their memory, let us continue to stand for the ideals for which they lived and died. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
I don't think we can add anything more than that, John. I don't know about you.
I will call him out for one thing.
What's that?
He got political.
But
he had to at that point.
He had to at that point. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it just goes to
every president has to be political in every speech. It's just that it's keeping their agenda there.
Yep.
But yeah, that's the only thing. Like, no, he's absolutely right. I couldn't add anything to that. I wasn't alive. I don't know. I only know the history of it.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine being one of those brave human beings that even thought that would be a good idea. I hope we never have to do that ever again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're a different breed of human, and what he asked is probably what we should be doing now.
Yeah,
is be a better person because of that.
Yeah, because of
you
that
don't have to duplicate it. Just be a better person because of that.
Well, I loved his question in his speech. Why? You know, of the soldiers that were there, because there were a pretty significant gathering there of soldiers that survived that spot in Pondahawk, and it was so. Why did you do it? Faith and love, and just knowing that democracy was the right course of action, and not to be in a tyrannical state.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was. I don't know if you could ever sit here and 100% say it was called for.
Yeah.
Either way, you know what I mean? Like, like you can argue war just like you argue peace.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not. You can't. No one's ever going to agree on these things. This is to our media segment the whole time. This is what the media plays on. Because most people, when they learn history, they learn of the complexity of. Would I agree with it? I don't know. Would you agree with it? I don't know. Or both of us are going to agree. Like, that's the point of why we have military. That's why we have people that make decisions. Why we have presidents. And why we have. This is not a pitch and fork nation. Like, we're not like, let's go get them.
Yeah.
Like, we have levels to do that because it works better than just burning down a field because we don't like somebody.
Yeah, exactly. And
I think he made very many points to that.
Yeah.
But all I can say is, especially because it's on this day, my heart goes out to every family, every person, anybody that lost their life, anybody that served, anybody that life was changed. And I think that's everybody's life was changed, because a lot of people came back and didn't let their kids go into the military.
Yeah.
Or I know my grandfather fought in 2 different wars. I'm not really up on which ones he did because I didn't know him, but I'm just saying I know he fought in 2.
Mm-hmm.
It changes the perspective once you come back. So
for sure. Yeah. Well, you think about
is a
think about
different time.
think about the generation now that served in Iraq multiple different times. You know, went over, gone a few, you know,
I have a ton of
4,
friends.
5, 6, 7, 8 times over there. It changes you, and you know that's why I think it's so important for the military to kind of, you know, okay, when they come back, how do they
Help
get
them.
reacclimated to society, all that kind of
Help
stuff. And there
them.
are support systems that do that. There's no question about that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need more.
We do.
That's the only thing. I'm not saying that. I mean, we already talked about with your father. The VA got better from what I've heard from a ton of veterans.
Yep. That's
We
a
just
huge
need
step.
More
More.
you can do if you want to start a charity.
Yeah.
To help veterans, you should probably start a charity. There's not enough charities.
Shake the hand of an active soldier that's in uniform. Thank him for
Buy
their
a
service.
meal. If you want to make a difference in this world,
Mhm.
start with veterans.
Yeah.
Because they're the least taken care of in this country.
And you know what, too? I would say ask them what they've gone through. Ask questions.
Yeah.
Because they will tell you stories that will blow your mind. That will blow your mind away. And you'll go like, wow.
We have an email address, TwoNoobsTalking@gmail.com.
Yep.
If you are a veteran and you're seeing this and you want to talk to somebody, we have absolutely no issue with having correspondent with you.
Yeah,
Please
and if
reach
anything,
out.
if you need help, reach out to us too, because we've got connections.
Even if you want to talk to us,
Yep.
please. Like anybody that has ever served anywhere, you have our utmost respect.
Yeah, and loved.
Whether
Absolutely.
it's a day or a million days, it does not matter. You have our absolute undue gratification.
Yeah.
I can say that without even having to ask Matt.
Absolutely.
You have it.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. So that's it, John. Episode 34, once again in the can. As always,
Herschel
man.
Walker
This
just
has
ran
been
by.
Yeah. Exactly. You on the road, here I am at home. It's great, of course, to be able to spend some time with you and talk these things out. Let's do the shameless plugs segment, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Where can people find us, man?
Oh, man. Okay. Socials. Instagram, which I'm going to really promote because my personal Instagram just got changed to 2 Noobs. So everything, it's going to be more. I'm not running 2 Instagram accounts. I'm running 1. I'm giving up my own personal one because I'm not on social media anyway. So you'll see a lot more on Instagram. TikTok, absolutely. Clapper, thank you for all the support. We will still continue the videos on that.
Yeah. Of course, we got
we leave that too.
Yeah, that leads us to our YouTube channel. That's where we place a lot, obviously, all of our episodes on our channel. You can subscribe right there. Hit our subscribe button. We love for you to do that. And obviously, like and share our videos to get the word out more. Of course, we're also on the audio side for our audio listeners. John.
Also, audio. We're all over the place, but we're focusing on Apple and Google Chrome and I think Google Podcast.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's where we seem like we're focusing. We are on Spotify. If you have Spotify, they suck, but if you just stay on Spotify, like us. I don't like them, but it doesn't mean you don't have to
Exactly.
like them. You don't have to not like them. That's
exactly. Of course, Johnny, our show notes, they're right here, of course. They're not quite as hefty, I guess, this week, but
pretty good though.
Two Noobs Talking at WordPress.com. And of course, you want to sign up for them, and of course, the links for all of our articles or everything that's like sourced. We take pride in that. We love doing that, so please feel free. Check that out. You can subscribe there as well. Just enter in your email address, and bam! Those show notes show up in your inbox the very next day. And John, that is it, man. 34 in the can.
Like Charles Barkley.
John, you got anything final to say, though?
Don't go down a rabbit hole.
I'll try not to. Talk to y'all next week. Take care.